In this episode, Carlton Palmer will be giving his verdict on England and whether he thinks this time in 2024 it's actually going to come home. We'll also talk about Sheffield Wednesday and all things to do with that club, and also why we don't talk about the midfield battle in today's game and the evolution of the game. Before we get into that, please remember to like, share and subscribe. We really do appreciate your support.
We talked about your manager career. I suppose what we should have asked beforehand is when you talk about transfers and player transfers, you had a couple in your career. You moving from West Brom to Sheffield Wednesday to Leeds and to Southampton. What kind of goes into the behind-the-scenes process? Because, as a fan, you just see a new player arrive, and you're like, oh, he's playing great for him. There's obviously lots of stuff that goes on in the background. Can you just talk about some of your moves and how they come about?
It's not always as straightforward as it seems to the outside, and you can't say anything because you're always bound by, you have to sign a confidentiality. So,
right, okay.
From the outset? So literally, if a club's interested in you, bang, sign.
Not from the outset, but when the deal's done.
Right.
Depending on how you leave the club and why you leave the club, there's always a confidentiality clause put in there. So, like when I left West Brom, it wasn't something I wanted to do. I didn't want to leave West Brom. The club was skint. You're a 19-year-old kid, and you've just been told that the club's skint and you want to go, and that's it. So you just have to get on and speak to the clubs that are interested in you. At the time, I was a young kid, so it wasn't that my family didn't come into it because I wasn't married or whatever. So I made the decision to go to Sheffield Wednesday, as I said, with Ron Atkinson. Mm-hmm. I had a fallout with Trevor Francis here at Sheffield Wednesday, which led to the move. It wasn't a move that I wanted, which the fans now know. I couldn't say at the time because I was bound by a confidentiality, and I got a lot of stick from the supporters because obviously I went from Sheffield Wednesday to Leeds, but it wasn't that I went to Leeds United. I went to play for Howard Wilkinson. Yeah. But I had a fallout with Trevor Francis, and I did actually sign a new 5-year contract, of which they had to pay me up before I went.
Oh, okay.
And that's why they made me sign a confidentiality. So
how long are those agreements where you can't speak about stuff?
Well,
they just vary, or
when you're out of football, what can they do?
Yeah. Fair enough.
But then when you have a family, say for instance, when I went to Leeds United, again the factors that play into parts were my kids were in school in Sheffield. You got your home in Sheffield. I didn't have to move. Leeds was 40 minutes down the road for me. So you have to take all those factors into consideration. You've also got to look at, for me, I think Jack Grealish is a really, really good player, but I have no idea why he went, apart from getting the money, I have no idea why he went to Man City, because I know he played an integral part last season, but this season he's hardly played. He's played 7 games. Man City don't play the way that Jack Grealish plays. So for me as a player, you've got to look at, when you decide to move to a football club, how you're going to fit in that football team. Does it fit your style of play? Does the manager fit your style? The money, listen, I remember Ian Russ saying to me, get on with your job. Be the best you can be. Don't worry about the money. If you're good enough, the money will come. Mm-hmm. And that's as simple as it is. There's no player that's playing now who's playing in the top half of the Championship or the Premier League that's not going to be earning good money. So you have to, it's about where you're going to be happy, where you're going to play your best football, and where you can win honours and where your family can settle. These are the things that you've got to look at. I mean, first things first. When I go to a football club, it's about the manager, and about me first, the football, because I'm providing for my family. So my family isn't at the forefront of where I decide to go. But obviously, on the back end of that, you've got to think. When I signed for Southampton, was I going to move my family to Southampton at 37, 38 years of age? No. So I go and the family stays here, and you do what you've got to do. You commute.
It's a big trip from
Oh, from here to Southampton. Well, actually, you know what? It actually wasn't that bad because the Newbury bypass had just come in.
Right.
So it wasn't a bad run. And Ersty was here with myself. So we used to, sometimes used to get an helicopter down there or, Dave Jones used to be really, really good because it was coming to the end of my career. So he wasn't, he wasn't fussed about me being in every day. He knew if I wasn't in, he knew I'd still be working. I worked, despite the stories about my drinking, which I did like a drink. You don't play as many games as I play. If it was, I work very hard. I still do now. Still train every day, and that's part of my makeup. When it comes to match day, you switch on and you get on with your job. So, fortunate, I can say this with all honesty, every manager that signed me has tried to re-sign me again. Trevor Francis sold me from Sheffield Wednesday when he got the Birmingham job, tried to sign me again. The only manager who didn't was George Graham, who got rid of me, and that was because I didn't sign for Arsenal when he got the because I wouldn't sign for Arsenal when I went to Leeds. So that's why he got the when he took over. I mean, it was my worst number.
Mid-90s?
Yeah. So he got the when he took over. When he took over.
Imagine you and Vieira playing together. That would have been amazing.
Well, I wouldn't have been with Vieira because Vieira came after that. He he would have been under George Graham, but it would have been maybe with Ray Parlour or
Paul Davis, was he there?
Yeah, Paul Davis was a superb player, but. Yeah, it's just London clubs weren't for me. It was nothing personal.
Yeah.
All the London clubs have tried to sign me over the years. I like living in Sheffield for me was brilliant because I could go to the pub on a Friday night. Big Ron used to know that. I used to go and have a couple of pints of Guinness and nobody would say anything, but you couldn't do that in the capital. The spotlight was on you. I loved living here because, I came here when I was 18, 19. I still live here now. This will always be... regarded as home to me. My 3 kids are born here. I've lived here longer than I've lived in West Brom. It's great generally to commute to most places, and I can, the missus can cycle out into Derbyshire within half an hour, 35, 40 minutes. Is a great place, so it was an easy commute for me. And I was able to live, even playing for England, somewhat under the radar here, having a drink and, which was part of my makeup.
Football's I presume as a player, more of a bubble down in the capital, like you said, and to get away from the limelight for a bit must be a good break mentally from the game.
And also, I don't like to be a long way from the training ground, right? So when I lived here, I'm 20 minutes from the training ground. In London, I speak to the lads when I used to speak to them when I was talks with me going to London, and they're an hour and a half, 2 hours to training, 2 hours back. Do you know what I mean? It's not for me.
Yeah.
It's not for me.
Yeah, it's that work-life balance then, isn't it? Because, what would you rather, like half an hour to training ground, you get back to be with your family, or you're stuck in traffic for 2 hours or 4 hours of your day?
Especially when you're, at a top club, you're playing 3 games a week, minimum, 3 games a week.
Yeah.
And that's hard work. I mean, people don't realise that. I mean, I did an after dinner last night, and I put the stats down so people understand how rare it is to become a footballer, and even rarer to become a top footballer. If you take 92 football clubs and work on average that most run with a 30-man playing staff, that means there's 2,775 footballers in a population of 64 million.
Yeah, I've never heard it put that way, but that's,
But and so the footballers get a lot of bad press, but they're a very small minority. There's a load of people out there earning a lot of money, a lot of bankers, a lot of lawyers, a lot of people out there. Footballers are a very small minority, and bear in mind when you're talking of that 2,775, about only 1,000 of those footballers will finish their career and never have to work again. If you're playing in League 2, you're playing in League 1, it's almost guaranteed that you'll finish your career and have to play again. So it's a very small minority.
Yeah, it is. It's tough, isn't it? I think a lot of people, they say, they see from the outside, oh, he's earning 100 grand a week or whatever. He should be able to play 3 games a week or whatever it is. But human beings at the end of the day.
No. Well,
isn't it?
I have I have a bee in my bonnet about that as well.
Yeah.
It's not about the $100,000 a week. I don't get how they can't play 3 games a week. I don't get that. I don't get the rotation. I just don't get it. You know, if you're fit, you're fit, right? I get people say the game's quicker now. It doesn't seem. Well, I played, as I said, when I was player manager at Stockport and player manager at Mansfield, and the game wasn't any different to me, right? Are the players any fitter today now? It'd be interesting to see somebody's bleep test stats against my bleep test stats then. I think now, even at the age of 58, I think some players in League 2 and League 1 would struggle to keep up with me now. Fitness is fitness, right? So, but I don't like the equation of because you're earning $100,000 a week, you should be doing that. That's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Your salary is your salary, that what you earn, right? But, you know, I do get though, and I will say this, and I will say from a player's point of view, you have to understand it's not easy when you are competing at the top, and you might be playing on a Saturday down in London against Chelsea, then you might be playing in Monaco on a Wednesday, so you come home, drop a bag off, pick another bag up, go again, then you're playing, might be Middlesbrough, then Saturday, then you're off again on the Friday, again. So people think, oh, it's a great life for the footballers, and then if you're an international footballer, you get to the summer, so you think you're having a break. There's no break because we got a European Championships or the World Cup. You know, even then, if you have it, like if you've got a break, you're not really on a break, because normally after about 2 weeks or whatever, you got to get on your bike. The amount of times in Portugal, me, Rushy, Paul Robinson, we all had our houses on the same. We'd be on running the golf course, you know, because that's our living. So it is a full-time job. It's an all-year-round job, and it's mentally at that level when you've got to, you know, this is why Jurgen Klopp's going now. Mentally, it's hard to keep that standard, because when you're talking about top players who are earning that type of money have to be performing at 8 out of 10 every week. That is hard to maintain 3 times a week. That is hard to maintain. And those are your top players. That's why your top players get paid the amount of money they do. Now, that is hard to maintain over the course of the season. Going through the summer, I played in the European Championships in '92, and I was arguably the fittest player in the Premier League at the time. Come back the following season, I was out on my feet by Christmas. Absolutely out on my feet by Christmas. So I get that. When you're playing year in, year out, you do get tired. So you have to manage. You have to manage the players, and if you're playing on 4 fronts, or you know, like Liverpool are, like Man City are, like Arsenal are, and the international players with the travel that's in, I get that they have to manage their game time. I get that.
So you mentioned, we talked about current England. You mentioned England there, Euro 92. What was it like for you playing for England? Massive proud moment, obviously. Your 18 caps. Just talk us through that experience.
Well, any player that especially in football, in any walk of life, the highest accolade you can ever have is to be picked for the national team. That's as simple as it is. And I don't subscribe to people who say, well, he's only got 1 cap. He's got 1 cap more than, 63 million other people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, that means you're one of the best players. I played at Sheffield Wednesday. I played at Leeds United, finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th in the Premier League. So if you're playing in a side that's going to be in 2nd, 3rd, or 4th in the Premier League, you're going to be one of the top players in the country. That is for sure. And I was. Even when I didn't get selected for England after that, I went to Leeds United. I was Player of the Year that season. It became a bit political at the time. When Terry Venables took over, I knew I'd never play for England again, because Terry, as great a coach as he is, works with the public, and with the press. And, my argument would be I got man of the match the last game I played for England. I was man of the match. Yet I was the only one who was left out of the squad that was picked. I then had a fantastic season at Leeds United and never got picked once. So it is what it is. If you'd have said to me when I was 12 years of age, I'd have 18 caps for England and played in a major tournament, and I played in 4 cup finals and done the things I've done in my career, I'd have said, thank you very much. So it is what it is.
Yeah. It seems like what you touched on earlier about, you said the Arsenal manager not wanted to get rid of you because you wouldn't sign for Arsenal. Seems to be like a bit of grudge holding. And we spoke to Matt Letitia as well, and he said the reason why he thinks he didn't get more England caps is because he refused to sign for Glenn Hoddle, and then he also refused to sign for was it Graham Taylor?
Terry Venables.
Terry Venables as well.
And that could well be the case. That could well be the case. You've seen what Glenn Hoddle, and don't get me wrong, I like Glenn Hoddle. I like him as a bloke, and we all have our pressures and whatever. But you've seen what he done to David Beckham. He threw David Beckham under the bus because he was under pressure, didn't he?
Yeah.
And that's a fact. So managers do what they've got to do for self-preservation, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Hard to navigate that in the game, isn't it, I guess?
It is hard to navigate it, and you have to be a very, very strong. I was lucky. I was brought up by my old man to be very black and white, so I accept things as black and white. I don't go too much into it. Like, you know, I know the black players struggle to get managers' jobs and coaches' jobs, but do I go down the route of racism? No. If I wanted to get another manager's job, even today, I could get another manager's job. Sol Campbell, in my opinion, could get another manager's job, but he wants to get a manager's job at a level. Dwight York could get a manager's job, but he wants a job at Sunderland or whatever. What gives him the right to want that job? Yes, I think there should be more opportunities for black players and black coaches, but don't make excuses. The same thing happened when we started playing football. When I started playing football, there was very few black players. And it was tough to come through. But look what happened. In the end, most clubs now, the top players are black players. Most clubs, you know. So, you know, at the end of the day, we broke down those barriers because you just kept going at it. And that's what you got to do. I mean, I know for a fact when you talk about, and I was speaking to Rob Jones about this, when you go on the coaching courses and whatever, when you see there's very few black players who are actually on the coaching courses. So therefore, you're not going to put yourself in the window to get a job. Yeah. It's not as easy as that. Like I said to my kids, I don't do excuses. There's no excuses, right? At the end of the day, you have to be the best. And if you be the best, you can't be denied. And you can't. That's as simple as it is. You know, and the more it transcends, like me as a parent, it transcends. Like, you know, if I've made the situation that I've made for my kids to do what they do and they're successful, then it goes again for their kids. You know, if you I always listen to people who've been successful, and Denzel Washington says, when you listen to him, there's more black kids in America in prison than there are in university. There's your problem. So the problem isn't the black kids aren't doing well. They're not being parented well. That's down to parents to lead the kids to do well. And there's always an excuse. There's always an excuse. You know, John Barnes, I love him to bits. You know, he got the Celtic job. He got the Tranmere job. He didn't do well. So it's very difficult. As a black player, you know it's going to be hard, but you've got to go in there and be successful. That's as simple as it is. You've got to do. We know that you're not going to get loads and loads of opportunities, but you've got to go in there and be successful. And if you be successful, then you're going to get the jobs. Simple as.
Yeah. Well, you said, stick yourself in position, work hard. Like you said, the jobs should come naturally, shouldn't they? And you get a shot. The shot of the job.
And if you speak to, you know, there's been exceptions to the rule, like Frank Lampard and Gerrard have picked up jobs on the basis, and probably Wayne Rooney the same, on the basis of what they've done in football. So the argument would be like the likes of Sol Campbell, well, I've done this and I've done that, you know, and I haven't had that opportunity. And that would be a valid point. That would be a valid point. But we know it's not a level playing field. And so I don't want to, like I said, I'm fed up of talking about, you know, kick it out with racism and this, that and the other. Have things improved? For me, it's just gone under the carpet, because the problem is now, when you go to a football club now, if 5 or 6 of your team are black, you're not going to get the racism. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get it. But has something really been done about it? In my opinion, no, because it's still going on, you know. Has it got better? I don't really know, because like I said, there's, you know, when you go into a dressing room now, you know, there's half the dressing room's black. So it's very difficult for you to say it's actual. So I go down the route of, you know, I've struggled to get work with the media in the UK. So what did I do? I went to Dubai and worked with the media there. Do you know what I mean?
Good choice, I think. Dubai, I imagine it's a great
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, but you have to, you have to be prepared to go and do the things you want and stick by your principles if that's what you want to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. What was it like in Saudi, going over there to do work? Is it a nice place to work?
I've got to be honest with you. When I first went, I loved it because I love the warm weather. I loved the place. But after 5 years there, I found it a bit soulless. Nothing really to do. Apart from going to the beach and, that's great for a while. But after a while, I mean, I've got to be honest with you, I did 8 years in Shanghai and that's completely different. I mean, it was absolutely...
What was that like? What was that experience
absolutely.
like?
If somebody said to me when I was 12 or 13, I'd have ended up coaching in Shanghai, I would have said, you're absolutely mad. But it's one of the... Me and Lucy went, when the kids went off to university, and we actually only came back because of COVID, when lockdown happened. It wasn't one of the best experiences of my life. And when people say, oh, well, you're lucky, Carlton, that you're in a position. No, I did 5 years in Dubai. I did 8 years in Shanghai. I put myself out there. And there are coaching jobs if you want to go and do that. If you want it, there's Australia, there's places you can go. Shanghai was phenomenal. And when I got the offer to go to Shanghai, Lucy said to me, Carlton, that's a long way away. But I've always had this theory that it makes no difference. If you're on a plane, you're on a plane, aren't you? Whether it's 11 hours, 3 hours, it doesn't matter. If something happens to a family member back at home and you're in Scotland, it's still 5 or 6 hours to get back, isn't it? It is what it is. So we decided to go, and we thought we'd go for a year or 2 years and ended up doing 8 years. And it was absolutely, and the mentality of the Chinese people, like Lucy and I went to a fancy dress party, and we went on the metro, and it was a pyjama party, and we were in pyjamas on the metro. Nobody batted an eyelid because the Chinese don't care. They don't care what people think, and I love that mentality. We have this mentality in the UK, especially now social media's that we worry about what that person thinks. Why are you worrying about what that person thinks? And that person doesn't know you. That's why in football, when people used to criticise me and say, I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know what I'm about. You don't know. So you carry on. So why would I be worried about what you're saying about me when you don't know? And that's what the Chinese are like. And, if you work hard for the bosses, they look after you. They're very much like I'm like I said, I don't like late. They're strict, 9 o'clock, boom. They're always forward thinking. So if you've got kids, they've got nannies in place at the workplace, that things that you take for granted, that 3 times a year they pay for you to go and have a full medical, because they're looking at that and saying, well, if we know that you're not ill and well, you're going to be in the workplace more often than not. You get rewarded for being in the workplace full time, and not. It's so many little things like that are just and when you live abroad, there's a more living life, working balance. So you work hard and it's long hours, but when you finish work, the weather's nice. You as expats, you stop off and have a drink on the way home. Whereas now, if you work, you go to, like my missus leaves in the morning, it's dark. She comes home, it's dark. Yeah. You don't feel like doing anything when you get in. It's just eat your food, watch a bit of TV and go to bed. Whereas when you go to live and work abroad, and also you're appreciated more. I was appreciated more as a coach over there. My wife was appreciated more as a teacher over there, and paid accordingly for it.
So is that right? You set up an academy in Dubai and was director of sport in Shanghai?
Yeah. I set up a football academy in Dubai, which was really good because there's a lot of expat kids there. And really enjoyed it. I enjoyed my time there. My sister lives there. She moved out there on the back of me being out there. They've been out there 19 years. He's a solicitor for a company, a big solicitor firm, Clyde and Coates. So it works for him, and they love it, and they love the weather. And just for me, I like a little bit more to do, on the weekends in Shanghai. You've got Hangzhou's just away, 40 minutes away on the train, and it's so beautiful, with the parks and whatever. So there's so much to do and see. So for me, I mean, we said if the if the kids were younger and whatever, we would have done a longer stint out there. So many people have gone there and not come back.
Because you hear a lot about China, don't we, in the media and the press, not necessarily football stuff.
And a lot of it's untrue.
Yeah.
I mean, the talk about the smog out there. I can in the 8 years as a football coach, I can count on one hand the amount of games I've had cancelled before that, and really the games that get cancelled now are just because of the government have put in a level for the school, right, for the schools and the colleges over there, and the parents have a big stay in the expat school over there, so therefore they brought the level down. So, but like I said, it was just an unbelievable experience. It really was.
Yeah, so we've talked about England a bit now. What do you think they're going to do at this Euros, and how do they compare to the previous generations of England sides?
How do I think? I think they're going to do well in the Euros. I really do. Always is a problem for us. We've got, you know, the problem that we have is the Premier League is the toughest league in the world. Mm-hmm. So our players, I mean, we didn't have that excuse with the World Cup, you know, because obviously the World Cup was mid-season, right? But generally, come the end of the season, our players have played more competitive football than other nations, and that doesn't have an effect. You know, when I went to the Euros in '92, I think I played 72 games that season. Arsenal players were the same, because remember we had the cup finals and the replay, so the Arsenal players were the same. The squad was made up. The England squad was largely Arsenal players, Sheffield Wednesday players who played a lot of games that season. It's hard to go into a major tournament with players who've played like, you know, that. But I think England have a very, very good squad. And the problem is, I suppose for Gareth, it's an embarrassment of riches, really. And what does he do? How does he fit it in to work, as we were talking about earlier? I think the only problem for us, I would think, is from a defensive point of view. I think that's the only area that we are... and when I say a defensive point of view, I think we have an issue at left back. For me, I'm not a Luke Shaw fan. I think he's a good footballer. I think he's a poor defender. He's a poor defender, and Luke Shaw on that side with Maguire doesn't work for me. Doesn't work. So, and everybody has their opinion about it. But if everybody was sold on Luke Shaw and Gareth Southgate was sold on Luke Shaw, why did he start Trippier on the left-hand side in the Euros when we were at home? He started Trippier on the left-hand side. So if he's convinced about Shaw, it's only because we qualified. He brought Shaw in, and then Shaw played well, and then he kept him in there. But, you know, in the final, I thought on that side, they caused lots of problems. In the World Cup, Declan Rice, who was the older midfield player, ended up covering in the left-back area an awful lot of times. Even in the first game against Iran, he was in the left-back area. He got pulled out against France, Declan, to go into that left-back area, had he been allowed to stay in there. So we've got a problem defensively for me, left-back, and then we've got a problem at centre-back. John Stones plays for me on the right-hand side, and you know, Harry Maguire's never let England down. But I think I like the boy at Crystal Palace, and I think he's got to go.
Good player,
I think he's got to go. He's got good pace. And he knows the game, and he's got to go, because John Stones has struggled this season with injury. And you've also got that option of playing John Stones in midfield. He's got a very, very good squad. It's comparable to the squad of '96. I think the squad of '96 beats this team. I really do. I think they would be a better team. So if we look at that, and we're on home soil and we didn't win it. But I think it's a very, very good squad. Midfield going forward. I think there's no other team in that tournament as a midfield and front line as we've got, and it's just about getting the balance, like I've talked about.
Is Southgate going to get Foden, Saka, Grealish, Bellingham, Rice in? They obviously all can't play, I guess. But who are you going for out of those players? I guess.
It's. I know what I would do, but. The problem is, right, is you've got to look at what you're going to get the best out of the team. Where Bellingham's position, where he plays for Real Madrid, where he's scoring the goals, he plays the one-off in that space. There's only one player who can play that, right? So Bellingham's got to play that role for me, right? So if he's going to go with Kane up front, Kane has to stay up front and play as the focal player. He's got to do that. He's got to do that. If he keeps dropping back, then for me, you've got to either play him as a midfield player, which he's not a midfield player, or leave him out. And it's a big call. It's a big call. It's a big call. But I would, and I'm being honest with you,
Okay.
I would start with Ollie Watkins right now. He's got the pace. He's running again along the line. He's flying at the moment. He's scoring the goals. He'll stretch the back four. That what then allows you to do is play a diamond shape in midfield now. So you can play Bellingham at the top of the diamond, who can go in behind. You can play Foden, right? Then you can play Declan Rice, and then you can play Saka as a floater. For me, he can pick which side he wants to go. And then you've got your fullbacks then, who in Kyle Walker. I would maybe go for the lad Chilwell, at left fullback, who can get forward.
Scores some goals as well, doesn't he?
Yeah, and he gets forward. He does really well. And I think with Chilwell, he's had a lot of injuries that has set him back a little bit, but he's now starting to show some good form for Chelsea.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And you know, and in international football now, you don't have to worry if they play a four and the fullbacks are coming out. But what I don't want to see is Foden stuck out wide, because that's not his best position. Yes, he can play there, but if we're going to do that, play Grealish there, because he's natural out there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to see Foden play. I think we've got to play our players that are banging form. And are playing well. So, you know, there's an argument for Trent to be playing in the middle of the park, because nobody picks a pass like Trent. Trent's the closest we've got to David Beckham as picking a pass.
James Ward-Prowse?
I think he's done well.
Yeah,
for me, there's an argument that he should be in the squad, for sure. But then we've got Maddison, who started the season on a house on fire, who's been brilliant. It's abundance of riches.
It is.
And this is the problem that Gareth got. And whatever happens, whatever decisions he makes, unless we win the game, he's going to get hammered.
Yes.
That's the. But I think he's also this. I think Gareth will be different this tournament. Do you know why? Because I think in his mind, he thinks it's his last tournament. Okay. So if you know in your mind, right, if he wins it, they'll offer him a new contract. That is for sure, right? But I think he and ahed whether he was going to stay on. He's decided to stay on. And I think he's going to be different in this tournament, and he can be different in this tournament, because if he's knowing in his mind that he's going to walk away, it doesn't matter, does it? He can go with what he believes in. He's not worried about, I've got to do this to maybe keep my job to stay on for the World Cup or whatever. In my mind, this is my last tournament. Why not go for it?
More prepared to roll the dice then, isn't he?
Yeah. I agree with you. Defensively, over the years, England have had probably an embarrassment of riches at centre-back, haven't they?
Yes.
And this time around, they haven't. They've got a going forward from the midfield up. That's the only thing that might catch them out, I think. Yeah. John Stones, rate him really highly.
Yeah.
Agree with Luke Shaw, probably past his peak. Maguire also. And then
I think
Walker's a beast on the right. So
I think France is going to be their biggest competitors to winning the competition, especially with Kylian Mbappe as well. He's just unreal, and if he attacks
but we've seen Mbappe, and we've seen Kyle Walker can take care of Mbappe. That's not a problem. I mean, Kyle Walker is like a fine wine. He's been absolutely brilliant for, considering the manager left him out the side, told him he couldn't play that inverted position. He's ended up, and this is what top players do. This is what top players do. He could have gone. He could have just gone, I can walk into any other team. He went, no, I'm going to wait for my time, and I'm going to show you that I can play that inverted role. He's not only done that, he's had the captain's armband, and then he's gone on to get another 2-year contract. That is what and he's won every honour in the game. He's earned a fortune out the game, right? And that's what it's about to be. I want to play at this football club. And the manager said that, you heard what the manager said. He couldn't play in that position, and he's proved him wrong.
Is Kyle Walker world class?
Yes, he is.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, without a shadow of doubt.
Yeah, I suppose you either go one way or the other. You either say, all right, I'll go somewhere where someone wants me, or no, I'll show you. I'm the best, and I'll show you I'm the best, and take the challenge on. And he's done that.
He's done that. He's done that.
Yeah,
so I'm not worried. I'm not worried about Mbappe. He play, if he plays on that side against Kyle Walker, he'll get no change out of Kyle. He did it in the Champions League. So he'll get no change out of Kyle. So I think. We have the players to win the tournament. We've got a problem. Pickford's never let England down, but I still think Ramsdale's the better goalkeeper. I think Ramsdale's a better goalkeeper than the Raya that they've got in goal.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I can't believe. Arteta hasn't done too much wrong. I mean, he's took Kai Havertz, where everybody was like 60 million for Kai Havertz, really. And I mean, look at what he's done. I know. He's probably looking at Raya's ability on the ball as opposed to Ramsdale's ability on the ball for me. But it comes back down to possession. You should have given Ramsdale that opportunity on the back of last season. You should have started with him, in my opinion. And then if you're going to do what you do, don't sign him on a new contract. Because I don't believe that Ramsdale knew that. Well, I know for a fact because his dad's come out and said it. He didn't know when he signed his contract that Raya was going to come in.
Yeah, he's caused a bit of a problem for himself there, hasn't he? Because he's brought two goalkeepers. I'd say, there's not much difference between them. If you're going to bring a goalkeeper in, you've got to bring one that's miles better than Ramsdale.
But do you know the story about that? The goalkeeping coach who's now at Arsenal was the Brentford goalkeeping coach.
Right, okay, yeah.
So that's why Raya's ended up at the football club. So it was always going to be a problem. So that's presented a problem for Ramsdale himself, whether he gets picked to go to the
Euros in the summer.
To the Euros, yeah.
Would you play him even though Ramsdale's not playing for Arsenal? Would you put him ahead of Pickford, or does he need to play?
It's difficult to put it in a major tournament. It's a hell of a gamble, isn't it? Yeah. And Pickford's done nothing wrong. Yeah. I would have had Ramsdale ahead of Pickford. I thought last season Ramsdale was the best goalkeeper in the Premier League for me. That's my personal. Well, when I say the best goalkeeper, I think it's very difficult when you're looking at the goalkeeper for Man City. I'm not sure how good a goalkeeper he really is because he never really has to make a lot of saves, does he? He's not the number one for Brazil anymore, is he?
Alisson is the number one for Brazil.
Alisson's the number one for Brazil. So I'm not really sure. So for me, I rate Ramsdale very, very highly. And I'm hoping in the summer that because there's no point as a player now, this is what I'm on about. You can't. There's things that happen in football that are just not right, and it's not about money. You've just got to go in and say, right, listen. Like for me, Maguire, if you're going to play, if you don't think I'm a good player, fine. You're going to play Luke Shaw at centre back. Now you're taking a piss.
Yeah.
Now you're taking a piss. I've got to go. I know he stayed. I know he's got back into the team. But when you're looking at, he's brought Varane in, who's got one leg, and whatever, he's played every man and his dog ahead of him. He's not going to play. Me, I'm not letting anybody embarrass me like that. I'll go and play. Now, credit to Maguire for standing up and playing very, very well. He has. The results that have happened for Manchester United in recent weeks, he's been very pivotal to that. But you've got to, as a player, you've got to go and say, like, I'd be disappointed if Ramsdale doesn't go to Arteta at the end of the season and say, right, listen, I'm here to fight for my place, but if I'm not going to be given an opportunity, and when I come in and do well, I'm not going to be given the chance to stay in, I need to go.
Thanks, guys. If you liked that episode, join us for part 3. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel, and have a world-class weekend.